What up, nerds, and welcome to another awkward episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 477, recorded Sunday, May 19th, 2024. Tonight we're talking about a new release. That is I Saw the TV Glow. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up, man?
Let us all bask in television's warm, glowing, warming glow.
What's up, blowholes? Ready to talk some warm and glow?
Yes, the TV keeps me warm at night. Every
God
night.
bless it.
Because I light it on fire. Woo!
Shit.
Next up, calling in from Seoul, South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy, Mr. Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness Stains.
Wow.
Yeah.
You big sad boy.
That's a waste of a bump opportunity if I ever had one.
It's basically like the moon.
Yeah.
Last but
I
not
got a little of that
least,
moon man in me, you know?
making her triumphant return to Straight Chilling. Everybody, welcome back, Caitlin. What's up, Caitlin?
Ooh.
Hey, happy to be here.
Hey.
How's it going?
Yeah.
I'm good.
How are things?
I'm good. As a Nickelodeon and Nick at Night girly, I am ready to talk about this movie. I'm sitting on a whole bunch of plug it ups to edit. I'm back in podcast mode, baby. Let's go.
Business is good.
Yes.
Well, speaking of podcasts, just for new listeners, people who don't know who you are,
Have you heard of our
what
podcast?
you do, yeah, let them know about your podcast.
You know what's funny? When we were seeing this movie in the theater, I felt compelled to take notes, which is douchey to start off with. But I was like, I'm just going to take a few notes. But I was like digging in my purse, trying to find something to fucking write on. And all I could find were plug it up stickers. And I was like, this is the douchiest moment of my entire life. I was like, I am such an asshole right now. But I scrawled my notes on my plug it up stickers. But I have a podcast called Plug It Up. It's a horror movie podcast as well. And it's sort of from a feminist perspective. And it's been a good year for movies like that. I'm working on edits for Love Lies Bleeding. Working on edits for Abigail. What else? Got a couple under the belt. Oh, and I just got to interview Heidi Honeycutt, who's the author of I Spit on Your Celluloid, A History of Women Directing Horror. So she has this really cool book coming out in August about the history of women directing horror movies. And she's like crazy smart and really cool. So, yeah, excited to talk more about monstrous ladies and Late Night with the Devil, talking about monstrous little girls.
Nice.
So, yeah.
It's plum off.
That sounds like a dope back catalog. I can't wait to listen to all of that shit.
Gotta get through them. And then if you're not into fun things, you can go listen to Skin of a Killer, which is a very stupid Twilight review show that I do. So
Nice.
I thought you were going to talk about this show. Okay.
Hey!
Welcome, brother, to your horrible home.
No.
Oh,
You like dumb shit? We got it.
we got that in spades.
Yeah.
Oh,
Check out Plug It Up everywhere you get your podcasts. Before we get into the main event, let's tackle just a little bit of housekeeping real quick. Here's another reminder. Our June poll is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this June. June, Randeezy, it is your takeover month. What's going on?
Well, you know, I'm a bit of a cryptid nut. At least I would like to
say
fancy
that
myself
about
that
you.
way. I'm sure that I could be. Yeah. I
Everyone says
introduced
that about
myself
you.
in that way. Yeah. So
Moon Man Randy's a bit of a cryptid.
it's on my business card. It's on my resume. You know, I build my whole life is built around this.
You've got a chess piece that says that too. I've seen Randy in person.
Oh, yeah.
A bit of a cryptid nut on your chest.
Ask me about my cryptids. Yeah. Got a pearl necklace from a cryptid. Anyway, let's move on.
There's a lot of fan fiction about that. There is a sitting Virginia congressman who writes Bigfoot fucker porn. Excuse me, erotica.
I'm sorry. Like that, I was aware that there was porn of it because it's something that a person can think about and
Imagine.
therefore they can create porn about.
Yeah.
but I did not know we had legislation being made by these people. That's
I didn't buy his book because I didn't want to give him money because he's on the Republican side of things. But I did. Pink shaming. I did buy for my family's white elephant this year a book called Seduced by the Bigfoot and Ravaged by the Yeti. So I did get my hands on some Bigfoot erotic.
Oh, thank God.
I did not.
Mother, father, thank you for rearing me all these many years. I've got you a gift that shows my affections. Anyway, back on track. Rob, I'm going to get this plane right back on the tarmac for you. Yes, my picks are centered around cryptids. So our options are The Last Broadcast, The Mothman Prophecies, and Willow Creek, all cryptid adjacent films.
Whoa, Bob, tell me how those numbers are looking.
What? Mothman Prophecies still in first place with 52%. Second place, Willow Creek with 30%. And The Last Broadcast in last place with 19%.
Oh, my Lord.
Please consider this my official plug to the public to vote for Willow Creek because that movie scared me. I don't know. I think it was right time, right place, but I was like, man, the scene where they're in the tent, it got to me.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember liking it quite a bit, and I sure like that Bobcat fellow.
I was going to say Bobcat Goldthwait, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a solid movie. It's worth watching, even if it doesn't win the poll. Check it out if you're a bit of a cryptid nut or a bit of a found footage nut. You'll get something out of it for sure. Get your votes in. Before the end of May, we'll see what we're talking about this June. In other Patreon-related news, we just dropped a new minicast. We're dropping minicasts every other Friday. We recorded a Q&A with the lovely Mike Flanagan while we were in New Orleans at the Overlook Film Festival. They showed a 10th anniversary screening of Oculus and had a Q&A afterwards. We recorded that. It is on Patreon for your ear holes right now. Coming up next on the 24th, we're dropping a minicast. Juice, you're talking about a movie called You'll Never Find Me.
Yes, finally. Saw this movie about a year ago. Finally getting something released on it. But yeah, this is an Australian film. It dropped earlier this year on Shudder. And I think this is going to be one of those ones from 2024 that will just be kind of like one of those more lost or kind of hidden gems of the year. There's going to be a lot of bigger like releases as far as like attention wise and theaters and stuff. But I think this one's definitely worth a watch. Yeah, I agree. It's on Shudder right now. So if you haven't seen it, check it out and get ready for Justin's thoughts on that. And my thoughts. I'm bringing my thoughts.
Prepare yourself for
Friday.
Thoughts.
Brace for impact.
That's correct.
Oh, God, yes. Come with me.
If you're a bit of a thought nut, get ready.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Randy's the cryptid nut. I'm the thought nut. All right. I'm a bit of a thought nut myself.
Dude, that's
a real thought head.
So suggestive.
What?
I know. Right? Who would have thought?
Yeah, of course it does. That's the reason we would be speaking about it. Let's go.
In other Patreon news, we do have not one, but two brand new Patreon supporters. We got to give mad shouts outs to big, gigantic thank you to Doggy Face. And also to Shamey B for signing up on Patreon, showing us some love. Every dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show. It helps keep these wheels right on a rolling. And as is tradition around these here parts, we owe you both a straight chilling salute. This goes out to Doggy Face and Shamey B.
Slap me in the ass.
And would watch that sitcom. We
need one more.
Slap it.
Slap in the ass.
Slap my ass.
Very demanding.
Get in there and slap it.
I'm a bit of an ass slap nut.
Thought nut's going crazy.
My boy Thought Nut is out of control.
I got triggered.
Justin pulls down his hood and his brain is growing 3 times through his skull. I'm a thought nut now.
That's the most PG representation. I was going to say that.
I think thoughts are equatable to brain matter.
Yeah, Randy. Yeah,
the same thing.
My brain
I'm not a big thought
has
nut,
grown
but I think that's
That's the exact type of thought we meant. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
remember explaining the acronym thought to someone one time and they were like, that's so stupid. And I was like, well, you asked me and I'm going to tell you my stupid knowledge, though.
What is none of your business?
Yes.
Yes. That's all we got for Patreon. Do you guys have anything you need to plug?
I think I'm clean this week.
I think I am also clean. Bob, tell me you're clean.
Clean.
This house is clean.
All right, let's get into the main event. We're talking I Saw the TV Glow, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob, did you pre-order this box?
I have not pre-ordered this box yet. I will though,
God.
as soon as you can. I don't think you can just yet. But I want it. I do want this one. Faux show.
You got space on those shelves back there.
I know, Bob. You're looking
Looking sparse.
I don't know about that, but
You could probably get 5-10 copies easy.
Why stop there? I'm a bit of a blue nut.
I was waiting for it. I'm so glad we got there.
I'm a nut for blues.
Bubble.
Yeah, I don't think you can order this yet, but I'm sure you'll be able to like tomorrow. But we're talking I Saw the TV Glow, brand new movie, rated PG-13 with a runtime of an hour and 40 minutes, written and directed by Jane Schoenbrun. Stars, who is in this? Bridget Lundy Payne, Justice Smith, Ian Foreman, Helena Howard, Lindsay Jordan, most importantly of all, Fred Durst is also in this. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. Two teenagers bond over their love of a supernatural TV show, but it is mysteriously canceled. There you go.
That was it? Okay.
That was it.
Really short blurb. Okay.
Not great.
All right.
I was on another screen trying to figure
guess
out
some things are supposed to stay a mystery.
who the fuck Fred
Durst.
Durst was playing. My boy Frank Durst.
My boy Frank Durst.
So he was the
less
dad.
successful.
Yeah, he's
of
the
the
Yes.
role.
Holy
Creepy
shit! I
dad.
did not
Yeah.
clock that at all.
Well, I mean, he had one line too.
Yeah, he
So-
did have one line.
Yeah.
Did he roll right past you, my guy?
Dude, he did. He keep
did
on
say-
rolling.
So how could you tell? How could you
Thanks, Bob.
possibly tell?
Thanks, Bob.
I'm a bit of a lip
Chaos
biscuit
Energy
nut.
episode.
I'm a bit of a biscuit nut.
Oh, boys.
Oh man,
We gotta
chocolate
go.
flavored starfish, whatever the fuck, hot
No.
dog dicks,
I'm
whatever
nutty
it
for
is.
the biscuit.
Chimpanzee outer space.
No. I want to take it back. I'm a bit of a
Bob, we're
nookie
not
nut.
in prep
nookie
school
nut.
anymore. Okay.
Did it all for the nookie.
Oh, Caitlin. Oh my God. What will your mother say?
She knows what to expect.
Right on. Well, let's keep rolling. This is a new release, first time watch for all of us, I'm assuming. Would you recommend folks check this movie out? Caitlin, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I would recommend it. I don't want to talk too much about it before spoilers because I feel like so much of this movie is atmosphere and I don't want to spoil that for someone who hasn't quite seen it yet. But yeah, I would check it out. I don't think you have to see it in theaters. It's, I don't know. Yeah, I also would recommend getting the right time at the right theater. We saw it on a Friday night and there were it was just not the right crowd to see it with.
Were
There
the
was a lot of
youths
commotion.
there?
Some Zoomers.
Those filthy youths.
You know the meme format, or the famous picture of Bush being like informed that the attacks of 9/11 just happened, and the guy's whispering like, "Mr. President, there's been a second plane." My friend that I saw this with, Trent, he like typed up a meme very quickly, and he's like passed it down the aisle to us, and he said, "Mr. President, the Zoomers have entered the theater." And he was so right because they did ruin the whole experience. They didn't ruin the whole experience, but they definitely took us out of it. So I would watch this in like a quiet space. It's one that you would really want to immerse yourself in, whether that's in the theater or at home. So let yourself get into it, but find the right time.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I would echo that. This is one I don't think I particularly would seek out in the theater because it is so kind of like atmospheric and I feel like you got to kind of pay attention a lot and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think I'd really want to see this in the theater, but I do think it is an interesting new horror film. And I think this is, we'll get into this more, but the 90s nostalgia is so hot right now. And this is one of the ones that I think have kind of like captured that essence really well. So if that's something you're really hot on these days, that 90s nostalgia, this is definitely for you. So yeah, solid recommend, just not in the theater. Bob, how about you? Would you recommend people check this out?
Yeah, I definitely would. Rainey and I caught this one at the Overlook Film Festival as well. So we saw it with the right crowd. Everybody was there specifically to watch movies and, paid attention, no distractions really. I think I would recommend watching it just blanketly, however you prefer to, but I would say it's worth seeing in the theater. I mean, the cinematography in this movie is really quite gorgeous, I thought. Seeing it on a big screen was nice, and the soundtrack is like kind of killer too. So I enjoyed it in the theater, and see it there. I think it's worth it. Ray and Deezy, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, to me, this is absolutely a theater watch if you can get a theater that isn't, crawling with people who are not invested, which is a hard sell these days, understandably. But I watched it again today to be prepared for this, and in both cases, it was a pretty, respectful theater. The people were there to watch it, and man, I think the immersion is completely on me when I'm watching this in a theater. I'm very focused on the movie. I think it's worth doing. However, I will say that your mileage is going to vary on this movie. This is I think going to be just a generally divisive movie because it has some elements to it that are, just not everyone's cup of tea. Some, ambiguities and things like that some people just aren't here for. But if you're a Lynch fan and a 90s kid, that's all you need to know is you're going to have a good time with this one, I think. That's where I'd leave it. Recommend.
Cool. Sounds like a blanket recommend from the Straight Chilling crew. Check it out, and we are going to be spoiling this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
All right. Today, Bob, I have the plot synopsis.
Thank you. Taking the means of production back. How do you like that, capitalist pig?
Let me talk.
Brother, thank you. I didn't have the time to see this a second ago, which is a bummer. I really wanted to because I really enjoyed it. But thank you for picking up the slack.
Well, here's a little secret for you. It's on Wikipedia.
You cheating whore.
No.
Not a lot of people know this. But
hey, there's this new website.
I looked it up on the Wikipedia.com.
I can't believe you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like this, but I try so hard when I'm writing my plot synopses, which famously are controversial, and plug it up because I talk for so fucking long. But some people say they like them, but I'm like, I'm going to try not to look at the Wikipedia. And then I'm like, fuck, there's one thing I forgot that I have to look up, but
I
do. You get it.
I use it as a cheat every now and then. I try to do it off the dome, but there's no way I could. We saw this a month ago now. I'd forget. Yeah.
This is 95% Wikipedia. So here we go.
Sweet.
Is the other 5% a hashtag hard for soju at the end?
Probably, yes. All right, here we go. In 1996, a couple years before I was born, isolated 7th grader Owen meets 9th grader Maddie when he notices her reading an episode guide for the young adult show The Pink Opaque, which follows teenagers Isabel and Tara as they fight monsters using their psychic connection. Under the pretext of sleeping over at a classmate's house, Owen sneaks over to Maddie's to watch a new episode with her and her friend Amanda, that bitch, finding himself captivated by it. 2 years later, we do a time jump. Owen's mother, Brenda, is terminally ill, and Maddie has been ostracized by the school after a rumor circulates that she grabbed Amanda's breast, as if. With Owen unable to watch the show live due to his parents' strict curfew, Maddie tapes the episodes for him to watch later. Owen comes to her house to watch a new episode where she draws the symbol that connects Isabel and Tara on the back of his neck. She decides to run away to escape her abusive stepfather and asks Owen to come with her. He commits to it, but later backs out by confessing to a neighbor and asking her to call his parents to tell them what he's been doing with Maddie. Later, Brenda dies, and then Maddie vanishes a few weeks later, and the Pink Opaque is canceled after 5 seasons. We do another time jump to 2006. Owen still lives with his intimidating piece of shit father, Frank. There's never a good Frank. There's everybody who's Frank is a piece of shit.
Always a piece of shit.
Yeah, always.
Except for Turner,
who apparently is also Fred Durst. Frank. And he works in a movie theater. Maddie reappears one night and takes Owen to a bar on the outside of town. Whoa. First mentioned as a location in the Pink Opaque. As the double bill band performs, as the double bill of bands perform. Okay, yeah, that's weird. I should have changed that. Maddie insists that she has been in the world of the television show. Owen flashes back to watching her tape of the show's finale for the first time. In the episode, Isabel and Tara have their hearts removed by the show's main antagonist, Mr. Melancholy, and they are fed his Luna juice and are buried alive. The episode implies that Isabel has been unconsciously living Owen's life, causing him to panic and shove his head into a screen. Frank pulls him out and forces him to wash himself as he screams that he's not living his real life, and he vomits up some sweet, sweet Luna juice. Back in the present, Maddie explains to Owen that after leaving, the feelings of isolation and falsehood she felt at home followed her, leading to a public breakdown, so she paid a man to bury her alive. After eventually suffocating, she woke up in the Pink Opaque as Tara, claiming that their hometown is... Yeah, I'm getting there, buddy. Is Mr. Melancholy's midnight realm where people are sent after drinking the Luna juice. She pleads with Owen to bury himself with her to start season 6 as Isabel before he suffocates from being buried in the show, and he panics and runs home. Owen waits for Maddie to return and force him to bury himself, but she never shows up again. Final, here we go. Frank dies a few years later. Owen decides to stay at his house, settling down and starting an unseen family. The theater closes and he takes a job at a family entertainment center. He discovers the Pink Opaque on a streaming service, but he finds it to be of a lower quality than he remembers. 20 years later, Owen still works at the center and suffers from a severe case of asthma during a birthday party at the center. He breaks down, screams that he is dying, and begs for his mother to save him before locking himself in the bathroom. He cuts his chest open and sees the TV screen inside playing distorted footage of the Pink Opaque, OG. He returns to the party, apologizing to the uncaring guest for his breakdown. Ooh, the end.
Man.
Nice.
Who's
well
ready
done, Wikipedia.
Yeah. And 5% soju. Hashtag hard for soju.
It says it on Wikipedia.
There it is.
That's crazy. It says that. Yeah, I'm
it
looking
also
at
says, hey.
Tight.
It has the build up and everything.
The wind up. So yeah, someone start talking about this movie.
Yeah. This movie is good. I like it quite a lot. No, I think Jane Schoenbrun, like as a director, having seen, I guess, both of their movies now, has like a really specific kind of vibe. I think. That's achieved very, very well in both of these movies. And kudos to A24 for writing a decent check. I think the budget was 10 or 15 million. And the previous movie, We're All Going to the World's Fair, it looked like it was, shoestring budget, like super low budget. So they took a bit of a gamble, and I think it paid off. This movie's gorgeous. I really, really like the themes that are played with here. And also the thing that sort of like really sticks out to me with both of the movies so far is they feel very like modern. They have this sort of Gen Z kind of vibe. They feel, even though this is largely takes place in the 90s and is like inspired by things from the 90s, it also has this kind of creepypasta thing going for it. So it's sort of like this interesting kind of generational bridge of a movie in my mind anyways, where it's very much influenced by these popular 90s shows that we all grew up on, and you know, the 90s are sort of coming back now, and it's sort of like seen through this like creepypasta kind of Gen Z's kind of lens, I think, that is really interesting. I love the blend. It feels familiar and very fresh at the same time. I just really love that specifically about this movie.
I agree, man.
Thoughts?
Like, yeah, that like that bridge that you're talking about, like the content, like the topics in this movie are very relevant to both people our age who like, and to people that are like just coming up, you know, young kids. And like, I think that this is an elder speaking to the younger, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I feel like this is both a love letter to someone's own generation and also something of a parable for the younger generation to get something out of this, to take something away from this. And I definitely want to get into all that because it is so central to this. Like this movie is like, let's just put it like right on the front here, is very much a story about discovering your transhood, if that's a word, or like discovering your gender confusion or your identity confusion, and the act of growing up in an environment that doesn't quite support you enough for you to feel like you can step into that world, and finding access points to achieve those feelings or to engage with those feelings. I think that's what this whole movie is. And like, I think that I like this movie a lot, even a lot more than I did the first time on second watch, because going into it, I kind of could see a little bit more like the allegory is more laid bare the second time. The first time I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to get too deep into it because we're going to get to some of this stuff. But like, there's some things that happen in this movie that are kind of like, I was like, whoa, that's very dark. That seems like, oh, somebody's going down the wrong path or whatever. And then eventually things sort of work out in a way that I didn't expect, and it left me a little confused. And I think this movie is very poetic and not so much like all of its feelings. Like it's about what you feel in the movie theater. It's about what you feel watching this movie. And that's how I felt the first time I watched it. And I kind of wrote off everything else. Like, if the structural elements of the allegory don't hold together, that's fine, you know, whatever. But I think they hold together a lot better than I originally gave it credit for, is what I'm working to. So I think like what's being talked about here, it's very heady stuff. I personally welled up a few times, both times watching this movie. So I think this is a very like sad movie that makes me want to give these kids a hug like the entire runtime. I don't know if you guys feel that way.
It's interesting because so much of what I do centers around gender and around like identity politics. And that's not the main thing I gleaned from this. In watching interviews with the director later, I realized that is very much the intention behind a lot of these metaphors, and that makes a lot of sense to me. When I was in the movie, what I got more out of it really was sort of the importance of media and of this mythology. Like, the word mythology is used pretty outright by the Maddie character, and then later when she's giving her monologue, there's literal mythology, like figures from Greek mythology being sort of like projected on her as she's speaking. So it's pretty clear messaging there. But I feel like it's a good study in loneliness and in the melancholy of growing up. It really captures so well what it's like to be a kid. The scenes of Owen in like laying down in the back seat, and I was like, God, remember when you could lay down in the back seat of a car and it's nighttime and like the like street lights and the city lights are like moving over his face. And him laying down there and being like, well, can you ask dad for me? So much of that captures so uniquely well what it's like to be a kid and to be scared and to be alone. The scene of them meeting in the cafeteria on voting night, it captures that sadness and that loneliness really well, and how media for everyone, because mythology is important to all kinds of generations, but how specifically television media was important for people of our generation, because it was a way for us to connect and us to bond. And as a big like Nickelodeon, Secret World of Alex Mack, Buffy, Are You Afraid of the Dark person? Like, there's a lot of obvious sort of, I don't know, nostalgia there. And the way that they're able to connect over that is really special. I think that it has a lot of important things to say and a lot of interesting ways to say them. And I love the way it looks. I think it's more about evoking a feeling than it is about a narrative. It's funny because when Juice was reading the plot, I was like, man, I forgot that so many things actually do happen, because this movie when I first saw the trailer, I was like, ugh, this is going to be all vibes, no substance. And it is all vibes. There is substance, but it's way less about the narrative than it is about the feeling that it's trying to get you to evoke, which reminds me a lot of the like 70s movies, experimental film, where it's like, I want you to feel an emotion. I don't really care exactly what the story has to say. I want you to feel something specific. And in some ways I like that. In some ways I don't. I think that everything that they said was important. I think the way that they expressed it was beautiful. It wasn't an entirely pleasant experience for me to watch, though, not because of the theater experience, but just because it's heavy. And I'm not usually one to shy away from that. Like, I have a wall of Midsummer art in my guest room. Like, I like heavy media and I like heavy, gross and sad horror. But something about this one just felt so much. And it's not one that I'm a big rewatcher, and it's not one that I would pick back up and watch again, probably, but I can't deny that it is beautifully made and says things really interestingly.
Well, yeah, to echo that, I kind of had that same kind of experience, very similar to just everything that you said. But also, too, I was thinking to myself, because the director is Rob and Andy's age. So 36, 37 from that era. So the influence is very, very clear, and kind of the things that you were describing of the time period, things that don't necessarily exist anymore. And so what in my recommendation, I said, I feel like this is one of the best representations that I've seen so far of actually capturing that 90s feel of a lot of things that happen, not just the show that's in the movie and stuff like that, just every beats of it, the fun zones and just all those kind of things, the way the family life develops and stuff like that. So at the same time, I was very impressed by that, but I was also thinking to myself, is this just going to capture this very, very tiny audience? Because it feels so cater-made to a specific experience that only some people know about. So if you're 10 years younger, 15 years younger, are these things gonna make sense, or are they gonna hit in the same way that they're hitting somebody who is the same age as the director and like live through these things? And I'm not so sure. I mean, because even a show, a lot of the things that I've seen, it's influenced by Buffy and stuff like that. I just so happened last year was watching that Erie, Indiana show that was like one season, in like 92 or something. Very obscure. Not a lot of people are going to know about it, but it's like the monster of the week, very cheesy type of things. And, kind of going back and watching it was that same kind of feel like, oh, I remember this. It kind of scared me. And now it's like super cheesy and like cheap and whatever. But I don't know. I was like, man, it feels like a lot of these things are so specific to a very specific set of time. And I was kind of curious. I was like, is this just gonna like go over a ton of people's heads? Maybe.
I mean, maybe, but me, I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
There's a lot of things in here that, like, if you weren't alive in the 90s, you're probably not going to understand what like the episode guide that she's reading at the beginning of the show. Like, what the fuck is that? Shout out to Fruitopia, by the way, that Fruitopia vending machine.
Yes.
Ooh, God, I love it.
It was zoomed in and we were like, is it Sobe or is it Fruitopia? It is Fruitopia.
I do think the general, like, the idea of not feeling comfortable in your own skin or breaking through these like social barriers that you might be brought up in, and for older people, specifically, like the idea of like watching your life pass before your eyes without ever really like being able to engage fully as yourself. I think there's sort of like overarching themes and ideas that almost regardless of your age, you can sort of latch onto and get something out of. But yes, specifically like these 90s references, like, yes, it's going to be lost on a lot of people. Like the Pete and Pete showing up in this, the
Tara from
Fred
Buffy
Durst of it all. The moon face, like there's a lot of like little touchstones, I guess.
Tonight needle drop. Oof.
That'll be lost. Yeah, but
Well, and I think what they're getting at is this, like, how using it's like whenever a man, no offense to you three, when a man makes fun of women for liking astrology, I'm like, it's an archetype in order to think about, like, it's using an archetype, like tarot cards too. It's like, we're using archetypes to organize our thoughts. That's what this is. And that's kind of what these characters are doing with the mythology of this show. And I think, it's very specific to the period of time that Randy, Bob, and I grew up in. Juice, you wouldn't understand this reference.
I don't understand any of this.
No, but like the Nickelodeon of it all and like the snick of it all, I read that the director used figures like Fred Durst and Pete and Tara from Buffy because they're, I don't know, when your brain is forming and you have these formative faces, that those just kind of stick with you. And for our generation, that's just kind of who sticks with you for these archetypes. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of how I think that it can apply to other generations. It just so happens that they're using figures that really resonate with us. I'm embarrassed that the whole gender identity part was lost on me, but I think identity in general is anyone can apply the identity issues with themselves.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I was going to say, that, like, Bob, you said that kind of beautifully. I think that, like, this is, the idea of adolescent loneliness and isolation from your peers. That's not specific to a gender identity issue, but this movie is, like, especially on second watch and, like, sort of like knowing out the gate that that's what it is. It's full steam ahead in that direction. And once you get that, like, I think that's your audience. This isn't, when I said that this is like an elder speaking to a younger set, that's what I'm talking about. I think this is an older person who has lived a version of this experience and who knows a lot of people, even in this movie, that have lived a version of that experience. And the set dressing of the 90s is just like relating to their relationship to those feelings, but it's a universal feeling to that specific group of people, and also can be broadly applied to pretty much anybody who had an emo phase, for lack of a better word, like anybody who went through identity crises in grade school.
I'm not okay.
Hey, ladies, if you were ever called a dyke, you get to ride with this movie. This movie was for people, like, the amount of bisexual and we'll say trans lighting in this was just off the charts. Yeah,
I love it. Randy, you got your bisexual lighting going on right now too.
I got it. I thought I'd make an effort, trying to immerse.
I love it.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like it really, like, I'm married to a bi person. Or I'm sorry, not bi. Excuse me, a non-binary person. And it's like, it was honestly, and this
Randy.
is like from the heart.
Fake ally over here.
Whoa!
Just kidding. Love you.
No, like, but in sincerity, like, it's watching this, I think, hits me extra hard, and it resonates, and it genuinely, like, it pushed me towards tearing up a few times thinking about how this applies to other people, including my spouse. Like, how, and the thing about this is, like, I was talking to my friend after we watched this the second time this afternoon, and we were talking about, like, how silly it is, like these, like, silly, like, TV shows that people get immersed in or whatever. But, like, I think that you can find identity in, like, extremely stupid things. It doesn't matter if they're stupid. Like, I had multiple people in my life tell me that they see professional wrestling as a religion. Like, and it's an identity seeking thing that, and there's no telling where it's going to come from. And for kids that are in some way repressed or scared, terrified to, embrace that side of themselves, or don't know what to do with it, and don't have, like, the guidance needed to know what to do with those feelings. I think that, like, a show like this, or like Buffy, or like whatever, I think there's got to be hundreds of people, thousands, that have engaged with each access point like that as a way of engaging with their own identity before they know even that is what they're doing. I think that's what this whole movie is, and it's about, like, to me, a feeling of, like, a lack. Not being courageous enough yet, and being too meek, too mild, too awkward, too scared to engage and what's the, like, interrogate your own life to that level, because it upends so much of your life in the process. That's why I think that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's why we have media. And that's what I mean by archetypes. It's like it gives us a language to talk about things when we don't know how to express it, or we can't even recognize it within ourselves yet. Like if, to use the astrology example, like if someone's like, ugh, such a Libra, that's a shorthand for me to be like, I know, right? Or if someone's like, oh, so-and-so is such a Carrie from Sex and the City, I'm like, oh my God, I know, right? And that's what they're doing with this piece of media, the Pink Opaque. It's the same thing. And it doesn't have to be, groundbreaking or important, but it's the way that we all interact with things, is the way we connect with each other. And I think that's what I mean by thinking that they have some really important things to say and some interesting ways of saying it, but that it was, for some reason, still kind of a hard watch for me. I don't know. I see a lot of myself in it, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it was kind of hard to look. I don't know.
Oh, it's hard.
Well, I want to
very sad.
Yeah.
Well, I want to explore those things, because as I was watching this, there were two elements that I would like to throw out and propose and have people kind of pick apart, because combining those two thoughts of it is very much about this kid is isolated and he identifies with this television show and lives through it. Okay, so two things about that. This movie, though, paints that in a pretty negative light, ultimately. The life that this person ultimately leads is what I would deem as portrayed as kind of sad and pitiful in a way. And also, too, there's a bit of this element that kind of rubbed me wrong, and maybe, too, in that same kind of way of like suicide as this answer.
I have some thoughts about that.
Those kind of things bothered me a little bit, to be honest with you.
That's, I think, understandable. And like, I think I was hung up on some of that myself on first watch, which is what this second watch sort of gifted to me, was like, I feel like I at least have some theories about what makes that make sense to me that like are really compelling. So,
okay.
Talking about the suicide thing, like, yes, there's like the first time I watched this movie, like it's in the way that this movie paints the act of Maddie coming back and insisting that they have to bury themselves alive in order to rescue themselves. It seems unhinged and like scary and frightening. And our lead character of Owen is rightfully, to some degree, like should be running away from that in a normal setting. However, ultimately, I think that this movie is saying that was he should have been engaging with that, because this, much like this is where it starts to be like, this is not, there's nothing in this movie that's really grounded. This is about an experience. So I don't think that like the lore of him actually being a TV character is as important as it is that he has lived his life without being able to look close enough in the direction of this thing that meant so much to him in order to engage with it and then fully realize that was what was inside him and what was so important to engage with all this time. And so like making it suicide, and the reason that sorry, I kind of went up base there, but like for the suicide thing, like this is like a theory from a dude who is never not a trans person in any way, adjacent to some folks who are, but like my theory about that is that like changing your identity on such a granular level, especially with as much destruction as that does to your personal life, like with your parents, with your school, with the society you inhabit, the danger and fraughtness involved in that, I think I kind of see that as a form of identity death, so that you have to break yourself to reform yourself into this person that you feel that you are meant to be, and that you know, like, and I don't think that's limited to trans people necessarily either. Like, I think that a lot of people, they have to break something in order to reform into a more complete person that is the person that they wanted to be. So I think that the suicide thing is meant to be scary, because it is scary to Owen, who is constantly afraid of engaging with this. And like, that's what he's running from ultimately in the allegory. And I think that by not engaging with that, you know, Maddie goes off and disappears, becomes her own person in another plane of existence because she refused to be afraid of this. He is afraid of it, and he lives his life, a very sad life, to your point, until he can't hack it anymore, and he has to like openly and like inspect himself on a level he was afraid to, see that is in fact what's inside of him, and begin moving in a direction that leads him to his true identity. I think we see the end of this movie. I see the end of this movie as like the tea kettle breaking And the next few things, and the next step would be to reform it into its ultimate form. Like that's what I
don't
see is like
that at all.
I think that with any kind of transformation, there's grief that goes along with it, whether it's a transformation that you were seeking or one that befalls you. Like for friends I know that who have transitioned in a gender construct, they feel like their parents have to grieve the loss of whatever child that they had before and get to know and celebrate the child that they have now. And there's a period of grief there. I also have friends that are like, I don't want there to be any grief. I am who I am, and my gender is just a small part of that. And then there's grief in terms of friends that have like been diagnosed with a chronic illness where it's like, I have to grieve the life that I thought that I was going to have. So I think the sadness and the melancholy here is part of that, part of identity and part of just growing up, because there's this really explicit commentary in the dialogue about time moving really fast as you get older, which I think can resonate with anybody of any sort of identity. I think if I'm thinking about this movie as an allegory, the other movie that comes to mind is Mother, which is just, that movie's all allegory. And I think what gets confusing about this one as opposed to Mother is all allegory and it's easy to see. And I think for this one, the allegory might, for some folks, be harder to parse out and therefore might be, I don't know, they might want to be invested in the plot a little bit more. And I think that's where it can be a little bit muddied. And for me, I was so happy for Maddie that she got out, reinvented herself, but then she did ultimately come back and she is fixated on this plan. And she seems like she's in active psychosis. So it's hard because, you want them to have this media. It's like she's so invested in this media and he sees a potential friend. And for me, his connection to the media to the Pink Opaque is more because it's about his friendship with her, not in any sort of like romantic way. He's pretty much painted himself as maybe ace, maybe aromantic, but I just, I don't know. I think there are so many directions that you can go with this one that the allegory gets not diluted, but just you can take it in a lot of different directions, and that might be hard to like grasp at one and run with it for some folks.
I think that's true. Yeah, it is hard. Like, I don't think there is one interpretation of this movie necessarily, but I do think there is an intentionality to it. And like
the director said as much. I didn't realize, but
yeah.
I will say one thing. Bob, speak.
Oh, hey.
It's been like 15 minutes.
No, that's
I'll take this one.
That's totally
Actually,
fine.
Bob, shut the fuck up. I got something to say.
Oh, okay.
Keeping the beat.
Bob, I actually have a direct question for you.
Okay, shoot.
What was the trypophobia activated with the moon mask? And was Chekhov's inhaler bothering the shit out of you during this movie?
The inhaler.
Man, the inhaler didn't really bother me in this movie.
Okay.
I think because I was just so completely invested in the story at hand that I was like, whatever, man, you can do whatever you want
Power
with me.
through.
I'm all yours. That moon face, it terrified me. It is one of the scariest single images I've seen in a very long time. It fucked me up. I couldn't stop looking at it though. Like it was blowing my mind. That in the like evil version of like Mr. Tasty or Twisty, the ice cream man from
Sprinkly.
What is it?
Mr. Sprinkly?
Mr. Sprinkly? Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
That was way the fuck off. Anyway, that was terrifying.
Mr. Tasty is from Pete and Pete.
That's what I said.
What you're thinking of. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard.
The evil version of
evil version
Gotcha.
of is Mr. Sprinkly.
I forget because we also got the soup version of this movie's version.
Yeah.
So it gets a little muddy. But
Really
Bob, I thought
weird
of
to
you.
sell soup under the Name Mr. Sprinkly, but
Yeah,
whatever,
I don't like it. And Bob, I want you to know that I was joking around with Randy and I sent him a screenshot of my notes and all they said were Fred Durst and poor Bob sad face. So, because of the trypophobia and the inhaler.
I love it. The only thing we were really missing in this movie, I think, is a special Limp Bizkit track made for this movie.
Speaking of the soundtrack,
eternally
Bob,
grateful that is not the case.
I was thinking of you with this soundtrack bump. Did you like the soundtrack, Bob?
Yeah, it was rad. There was, I think some of the trivia I found was the director just hired a lot of their favorite musicians to like write songs
That's awesome.
and stuff for this. It's great. Yeah, it's a lot of like really interesting choices, I think, that match the mood of the movie very, very well. I think just
also extremely hot. Like all of the like live music scenes, I was like, okay, hot. We get it.
That live music stuff is like, it's directly out of season 3 of Twin Peaks. Like down, like it's so like they had a musical interludes like at least once per episode on that season with like real musicians, like the Veils and shit were on there, and like you know, and like they had Phoebe Bridgers and somebody I didn't know, but like you know, a couple other people I didn't know, but like that, it couldn't be clearer how much David Lynch is in the DNA of this to me. It's just, it's all about like parsing and feeling, and it has dark, dingy, Roadhouse-esque bands performing, but it's very Gen Z style music, or very modern music, I guess.
It is it's for the emo queers. I was like, oh, I know exactly like 12 people that will be fucking stoked for this. Like, rally the troops.
Yeah.
Rally. Well, so to go to one thing Randy was saying that I was like, I don't see that at all, is at the end of this movie, Owen is apologizing. I'm sorry. I don't see this as a breaking of the teapot, of a rebuilding. At this point, it's showing Owen is at this point in his age where he is stuck in this. Not only is it this identity issue, it's a bit of this like Arrested Development, where he's a grown man who has just inherited a house. And he's working at a movie theater until it shuts down, and he just goes and works at a fun zone. Not only is he's like talking about, like, that's why I was feeling this pull. So to kind of go between what Randy and Caitlin were both saying, I did see the gender identity messages like pretty clear. I only watched this once, through the watch. But at the same time, the media pulls were also clear, too, because as this person develops into an adult, they're just stuck. And even when they get to the point where they're like, I watched The Pink Opaque and it meant nothing to me again, but the damage is kind of like already done. And that's why I was saying it feels like this is painting this in a very negative light, because Owen is just working at this fun zone, trapped in this kind of childlike mental state with no friends. And at the end, when they have a panic attack of this, not only is the identity thing, but it's like life is done. Life is finished. And here I am singing at this birthday party, and they had this moment of collapse where maybe a change could happen. And the final scene is a reconciliation, or like a kind of like humbling of that situation. It's not like I'm fucking done with this, or I'm out of here, or like, yes, I'm sorry. Like it's groveling back to
you could see that as maybe a bit of a cautionary tale, like a warning, to like you don't want to end up like this.
For the character of Owen, I don't see it as a transfer, like, now I'm ready, or whatever.
Like the danger of living your whole life without fully embracing who you are and who you want to be. I think it could be seen as a cautionary tale.
That's what I think.
It's fine, yeah.
And like it's not, and it's like, to me, it's not even a cautionary tale. To me, it's like confessional tale of the life of, like, there's a lot of people, especially before these issues became something acceptable to even speak out loud in public spaces. You know what I mean? Like, that lived their entire lives closeted, for lack of a better term, and who had to just swallow that melancholiness and just drift through life probably more aimlessly than if they had fulfilled themselves in some way in this category. So to me, that makes perfect sense. And when he, like, the last message that we see Maddie leave for Owen is in the chalk art that says there's still time. There's still time, which to me, and then he opens himself up, sees this like thing that he held so dear, exactly as he remembered it, not like it is on the streaming network, because like I'll go back to that, but like seeing what's inside of himself and being like, yes, it truly was there. It's a relief face that he has. And if they had then cut to him on the floor bleeding out, I would agree with you. But he walks out of there like breathing and calming himself down. He says, I'm sorry, or whatever. And I agree with you that like that's a little bit, maybe it kind of undercuts a little bit. I could agree with that. But I also think that that's a journey that begins there, and you don't begin a journey like that of upending your personal identity and the life that you've built yourself. Even if it's not the life you wanted, you still have built a life for yourself and you are protective of. And he is now going out into the world with this knowledge for sure that what he valued about that show was something that came intrinsically. And so he is now walking a different path. He is slightly altering his trajectory towards self-fulfillment. And that's what it is. It's a constant like angular adjustment towards the life that you want. I don't think it's a cold turkey. I walk out and I know exactly who I am, and I like you start dancing and singing a song. It's not a musical. To me, that's how. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons that I was maybe a little bit confused is because I felt like Maddie was being very prescriptive about gender and about Owen's role in their relationship, like their friendship. Because during the scene where they're on the bleachers, which is one of the scenes that I like the most, I feel like it's a really, I don't know, that also really captures what it's like to be a kid and to feel so sad and to feel so lonely and like embarrassed. The vibes that I got from him were that he was like more ace or aromantic and maybe just gender questioning, not trans and not a trans woman per se, because I feel like Maddie being very prescriptive, like you are Isabel, felt like there's a scene where it's sort of like not like a flashback necessarily, but maybe a memory, maybe a projection, where Owen comes out of the bathroom wearing the Isabel dress. And it felt more like he was putting it on for Maddie, because he was fulfilling this sort of role for Maddie to be the Isabel to her Tara. I felt like it was more prescriptive of her saying like, maybe this is what you want to do and I want you to be my Isabel. Not in like a romantic way again, but just as like having that dynamic and having that soul connection on the psychic plane or whatever. And I just, everything I got from his dialogue that I took at face value was that like, I know that there's supposed to be something there, but I can't find it, or, that his was very ambiguous, whereas hers was more prescriptive of this is what I think you should be. And I might be totally off base. I felt like Maddie in her, what I perceived to be psychosis, was prescriptive of like, you're the Isabel and I'm the Tara. And that was, and he was finding things within himself and maybe a little too afraid to look, but that it wasn't necessarily the story of a trans woman being like forced into like a comp het or a comp cis scenario.
That's an interesting point of view, because I didn't think about, I definitely didn't get the idea in my head that Maddie was like forcing him into anything like that. I took that as a flashback of him trying that on, that he was blocking out. Like, this is about his experience.
And it could be, yeah.
And like, to me, it's like, yeah, you've engaged with these things, like the scene of walking across the football field, or like all these things that are like resonant, like she's talking about, it's mixed up like a snow globe in your mind. Like, I think that's where the allegory and the reality start to like meld into one thing. You know what I mean? And it's all that one thing is the feeling of having this identity that you're not engaged with, and you feeling driftless and aimless without it. So like, I agree that like Maddie's presence or the way she appears and talks and acts in that scene, it's scary. But I think that's because it's scary for Owen to reacquaint himself with somebody who has taken that extra step, and the way she's talking about it to him, and it is terrifying, because for him that would mean like everything that was important to him, like his mom or whatever, like it changes his relationship with everything, perhaps.
Well, he tackles her. I know that literally tackles her to get her to stop, but
he doesn't drag her away or anything. Yeah.
No, and that's the thing. It's like, is that supposed to be representative of him tackling that part of himself and tackling to like quash that part of himself? Or is it because he's quashing it because he has this connection with this media piece and Maddie is making it more prescriptive about what he should be doing, whereas he's just sort of existing in the way that he wants to exist?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's ambiguous, and I'm sure it's supposed to be, and I'm probably reading it incorrectly now that I know that there was a very intentional gender message here, and it just kind of didn't, like I said, very embarrassed. This is supposed to be my wheelhouse, so I didn't. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think it's weird too, because all the scenes with, like, going back to, I think maybe Bob or Caleb said it too, with the initial connection with Owen is he's alone. And he connects with Maddie, who is a person who's alone, and he's seen a commercial and she's reading a book. And so he makes this simple little connection where he's like, oh, this show looks interesting. He's trying to connect with her, and he does connect with her. And she, even from the very beginning, she's so fucking intense. And so they're kind of almost immediately dragged into this extreme situation that, as their relationship develops, becomes kind of like more like worse and worse, more and more unhealthy. So I think the problem with Maddie too, of trying to, like, where Randy was saying, oh, I'm going to guide you or whatever, is almost all of the scenes with Maddie feel so hostile almost. And like even Kayla is just kind of scary, where especially when she's explaining things at the end, like, this is what's going to save you. You're like, it's too intense, and it doesn't necessarily make me feel like you're necessarily looking out for my best interest. It makes me sound like you're a fucking crazy person, who she even describes her life as, ever since she left, has not been great, to the point where she paid somebody to kill her.
Well, and I kind of like that, where she's like, I was paid, that's like, I had death of like my old identity. Instead, it literally was buried, starting over. But unfortunately, the metaphor gets a little funky, because she comes back to exactly where and who she used to be. Pupils dilated to fuck, because she's, I'm sure, in active psychosis or in mania. But it's just hard for me to land. The plane doesn't land in the right spot. I don't know, and that's a me problem, not
I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Juice. I think that for my part, the idea that she's coming back, she is like, she's not intense or hostile, like in a meaningful way to me, until she comes back. And I think that is, again, I think that's a byproduct of the way Owen is experiencing this. Like, she's a little intimidating as an older kid at first, but like at that point, this is all like, oops, all allegory. And it's like, she's there as like, as if you were somebody who'd been drifting through life, and your old friend came back, who had done something you would never like had the gumption or the courage to do, and they're trying to convince you to do it, and it's a scary thing, and you want to get away from it. Like, that's what I take from it, is that he is experiencing her resurgence. He's happy to see her, but she's there to tell him the last thing in the world that he wants to hear, which is, you have to interrogate yourself a little. You should be interrogating yourself a little bit about who you are, or whatever, or at least presenting as somebody who has done that and come out the other side a more full person, maybe. But she is like, the reason that she is portraying it that way is because Owen is hearing what she's saying and is fucking scared of it. Like, I don't know. That's how I see it. Bob,
speaking of landing the plane, I think it's about time we do that here.
Bob, you should take like doubles on your final thoughts, probably.
No, it's all right. Final thoughts on I Saw the TV Glow and ratings out of 5. Caitlin, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel?
Like I said, I think this has a lot of interesting things to say, and it tells them in a really interesting way. It's not a movie that I can say I really enjoyed watching, because it made me uncomfortable in a way that I'm not used to with movies. I typically enjoy that discomfort when I'm immersed like that. But something in this one just, I don't know. It was an interesting experience. I really like the metaphors. I think that it's shot really beautifully. The lighting is so pretty. The way the shots are composed.
The colors!
The way the shots are composed. There's a lot of like off-center shots, like the shot of him and his mom on the bench at the carnival. They're really pretty. There's a lot of shots of Owen from behind as he's walking down hallways and things like that. And just really capturing sort of the isolation and the sadness and like the, Charlie Brown song Melancholy, like, all of it really captures what it's like to be a kid and what it's like to hyper focus on something and maybe not know why in the moment, but then in reflecting back, still maybe not know why and maybe not want to address it. And then time has passed and you're screaming at the end. I don't know. It's really beautiful, but at the same time, it's probably not something I will watch again. I also want to comment before we're done that this is the second A24 movie of the year that has a sign in the movie literally spelled out that says pain is weakness leaving the body, because we also had that in Love Lies Bleeding. I was like, interesting. Also, lots of lesbians in Psychosis this year for A24, speaking of Love Lies Bleeding.
Yay!
So, yay! Representation matters, baby. Let's go. But I think I'll give this one a 3 out of 5.
Right on. 3 from Caitlin. Juice, how do you feel?
Yeah, this is a movie that, so when I was done, I was thinking about it. I was like, there's a movie that I watched recently that really reminds me of this. Not in any way of how they're structured or anything, and just how I felt about it when I was done, and how, like, thinking about how I would rate it for this show. And that was Skinamarink, where I was like, what an interesting exercise. What interesting elements this movie has, and how kind of proud I am of somebody taking swings like that and accomplishing things like that. But at the same time, feeling like I can appreciate the craft while not also, but at the same time thinking that there's a lot lacking in the forms of a film. You know, so I feel a very similar kind of way about this movie, even though they're very different. Just how I responded to the movie is in that kind of way, because the music was awesome. We didn't get, Bob talking about the moon mask and stuff. Those elements of the show, I think, were just done so well. Like the craft of, like I said, this is the most accomplished 90s feeling thing I've seen outside of the 90s. Like I was very impressed, and it felt authentic in that way, and in the way that the show was crafted, and that was brilliant. I actually think so. Even though they're very intense and sad, the actors do a great job. Maddie scares the shit out of me, honestly, and is fucking intense in any piece of dialogue that they deliver is like so fucking intense. And even though it's uncomfortable and not pleasant, they were doing a great job. Even young Owen, I honestly was a little bummed they did such a quick time jump, because I thought young Owen was killing it. I was very engaged with that actor. So yeah.
We had fake Anne Hathaway this whole time.
So
I never connected that until somebody mentioned it to me. But she looks exactly, or they look exactly.
So yeah, the music was cool. The show designs and stuff like that. Ultimately, like I don't know. A problem with it too is a lot of times where we have these elements, and I know this could be budgetary restraints, but where we have these cool elements that were designed to kind of, I think they could have used the show more to give us these kind of metaphors, give us these kind of allegories of what the movie is about, as opposed to too many times Maddie sitting us down and fucking telling us things. I feel like we need more show don't tell situations in this movie, and I think we have a good avenue to explore that in this show that's been created. I feel like they didn't do that as well as I kind of hoped that they would. The ending was intense. I felt the intensity of the ending. I kind of like Caitlin. I don't particularly want to watch this again, but at the same time, I can say like that's effective. Like it did make me feel uncomfortable. It made me feel the intensity and the sadness of it all and the weight of it all. But at the end, it did feel just like kind of like a little thin on just. And the things bothered me too about, like, I feel like somebody much younger could be like, somebody watching this film and maybe identifying with some of these themes. I think that some of these solutions are a bit too muddy. And while they can be a good allegory for like, oh, bury your previous self, or, break out of this identity, and that's fine. And that can be a good message. But at the same time, I feel like it's not clear enough. And some of these things might be signaling or trigger somebody to these ideas of potential suicide or harming yourself, or these things that just kind of made me feel uncomfortable. And I also thought too that there were these kind of strange messages about getting lost in media, or like it really stunting your ability to grow as a person or to identify with people. And while I think that might be an interesting avenue to explore, I feel like that this film does it in such a shallow way that it just kind of paints this negative broad brush of like, don't get lost in shows and be isolated, and like you'll be a stunted adult who just works in a movie theater for the rest of your life. I don't know. And it felt kind of weird in that way, as people who watch a lot of films and who grew up in this era and like are attached to some media in that way. It felt kind of like painted in a very negative light, which was kind of interesting, and I just felt like wasn't explored enough to kind of like justify some of those messages. So positives and negatives for me. So I'm going to go just slightly higher than Caitlin, but I do think this film is capped. Mostly I really appreciate the craft of it, and I'm going to give it a 3.25.
3.25. Cool.
Out of 5. Talk for the next 10 minutes, please.
I really loved this movie quite a bit. This was my favorite movie we saw at the Overlook Film Festival. I was just like, I don't know, on pins and needles the whole time the movie was rolling, just fully engaged with it. I technically, I think it's just a very gorgeous movie. Everything about it is like pleasing to the eye. I love this goofy little TV show they created that exists within this movie. The Moon Man is one of the scariest baddies I can think of in recent memory. It really, really worked for me. I think these performances are like extremely emotive and like gutting. I think there's a lot of really, really talented people that were on screen here. First and foremost, Fred Durst, plus a half star for Fred Durst in this movie. He's just really, really killing it.
A man's got to have a code, and Bob's code is with the biscuit.
Half star for the Fred Durst.
Star for the Durst. The soundtrack's fantastic. I think even if the like gender identity stuff isn't something that you can relate with personally, I think there's a lot of stuff here about just like feeling uncomfortable in your own skin, or just being unable to break out of these like social norms and like really have solid friendships and relationships with your parents being strained for whatever reason. This notion of just idly watching time pass by faster and faster, and before you know it, you haven't done anything that you've wanted to do. Like, there's a lot of things this movie's touching on that are like truly horrific. And it's not just like a slasher stalking someone around or whatever. I think there's something in here for pretty much anybody and everybody. And I think the idea of suicide being involved in this movie, I don't think it's at all being presented as a solution. I think it's being presented as really just like an unfortunate real life experience that a lot of people have dealt with. They can't fully be themselves around the people that they're surrounded by, and a lot of times that is seen as a solution by folks, which is very sad. I don't know. I love this movie. I really kind of can't wait to watch it again, just to see if I get anything more out of it. All the 90s
Goth
stuff.
Bob.
Word. All the
Can't
90s.
wait to be sad again.
I can't wait to cry.
My man.
All the 90s shit in here I love, obviously. It's definitely hitting that nostalgia button, but not in a way that feels cheap.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a common thing now.
Yes. I hate when people cash in on your nostalgia to make you like something.
Yeah.
And they did not do that here. They tapped in the exact right way. And I was like, that is so hard to do.
It's clearly out of love for the
Yeah, very much. And not in a way that's like, buy in.
Remember?
We're on the same page. Remember us together.
Yeah, it's not just remember. It's not, what is that fucking movie? Ready Player One. Or some shit like, remember Iron Giant?
Remember DeLorean? Remember Godzilla?
There.
Yeah.
98.
The good one. The one from the 90s. Yeah, I don't know. I really love this movie. I can't wait to watch it again. I'm going to give this a 4.5. Because, half star for the Fred Durst, obviously.
Of course, obvious. It's 4-star film, half star for the Durst.
Star for the Fred Durst.
Just to be clear.
Just to be very clear. Ray and Deezy, how do you feel?
Yeah, I feel better about this movie on second watch than I did the first watch, which is saying something because I enjoyed it nearly as much as you did. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you did the first time, Bob. I think that right afterwards I was like, man, Bob, you really like this one. And I said that as somebody who really loved it. I will say that it's like, again, like I said earlier, it's not a universal watch. This makes two times I've seen this movie, and both times the person sitting directly next to me, as soon as the credits hit, said, "What?" really loudly. So I understand that this is not necessarily for everybody, and I don't think it needs to be, because to me, like, it does have some universal stuff, like Bob pointed out, but it really is, to me, like I can't see past the gender identity stuff, because it, like, first of all, the director has explicitly said so, and we know that now, but also like the visuals are geared towards that in every way. Like, the very first thing you see is young Owen walking underneath a trans flag colored parachute at school and wondrously looking around as some kid does a goofy head bob in the background. It's very funny, that kid, I want to point out. But like, this is what the movie is to me. And so like, when we talk about like, is this movie's convincing kids to commit suicide in some way, or like positioning that as an avenue? I think maybe if the person who's watching this isn't understanding this exact point of view, I do think there's like something of a danger anytime you put suicide in, that somebody will misinterpret it. I think though that like, suicide, unfortunately, is so heavily correlated with trans identity because of social issues, you know, like the fear of that. I think that having him face his fears being akin to committing suicide in some way is a reasonable allegory, and not just because of how it impacts your life, but because of the amount of fear that's placed upon it, because of like, and because of like, that is, if it's not killing yourself there, then it's killing yourself by just living your life until the point you can't hack it and you have a full freak out and like stab yourself in the chest, for example. Like, I don't know. Like, I think that there's something really like, it's touching on some truths, man. And I think that's what I like about it. It's extremely sad. It's extremely hard to watch in some ways, but I agree with Bob. Like, beautiful looking movie that has a very specific style that is so different than Jane's last film, like that it blows my mind. That's the same, and that it feels even remotely the same, because they're so diametrically opposed visually. The music is great. The way that it blends scenes and the way it transitions and edits from one thing to another, and like, I think there is a lot of show not tell in this. There's a lot of tell coming from Maddie in particular, but I think that there's a lot of show in terms of like when he, like, you jump from one scene to another and then back, and then like the editing is doing a lot of show to me. And then there's things like the name of the school is Void High School, VHS. There walks down the hallways, and on every board is like what you mentioned earlier, Caitlin. There's things like Carpe Diem and shit like that. And this character, his main flaw, if like his main thing he's grappling with, is his fear to do anything of that sort. And he's walking through this world that only values that, and he cannot do it. He's too afraid. He's raised in an oppressive situation that has made him afraid to engage with himself. I honestly think it's all very beautiful in a very sad way, and it speaks to a truth that I have been grateful to never had to personally experience, but I know people who have, and it hits me kind of heavy in those parts, and a little emotional. Yeah, it's good. It's a good fucking movie. I think that it's extremely, extremely unique, and it's speaking to a specific audience, while also allowing the tendrils to go out to other audiences that it may have other impacts for. But I do think this is made for people that have gone through this, people who have had these thoughts, people who have, and like, as far as like, you know, getting lost in media as a topic, I just don't think that's what this movie is. I think this movie is about accessing yourself through media. I think that movie, that show being an access point for them and being so important to them because of that, without them even realizing that, doesn't mean that they're like over engrossed with it, and that's what veered their life off the rails. What veered his life off the rails is an inability to deal with himself. So like, I don't know. I think that was the only avenue he had to dealing with himself. It got canceled. His best friend left. His mom died. Every access point he had disappears and dries up all at once, and all he has is his memories of this thing. And when he goes back, it's even altered from what he remembers. If I had an access point like that I go back and watch, like Puppet Master was an access point for horror for me. I went back and we reviewed that. It is not a good movie. I didn't enjoy watching it. It made me feel stupid for liking it. And if it had actually had something to do with me, my identity on that level, maybe it would have had a different impact on me. I don't know. I think that there's some truth going on here that I can relate to as somebody who doesn't have all the relatability that they need for this movie. So that's a long-winded thing. I'm going to give this a 4.5, and that's -5 for the 0.5 for the Fred Durst. So,
damn.
Wait. I need to amend mine to say that I'm going to add a 0.5 because of this scene where she goes, I shouldn't pissed myself. So for those of you at home who couldn't see that, they break the fourth wall a couple times and talk to the camera. So
yeah,
he does. Yeah, he does. Actually, the film starts with him talking at the camera, doesn't it? Where he's like, "I started my favorite show again," or whatever.
And the narration picks up after Maddie leaves the second time when time speeds up.
You said 4.25, Randy? Is that what you said?
No, he said 4.5.
Oh, 4.5, and then yours is now a 3.5.
Is 3.5.
Oh God! Okay.
Just because.
Oh wait, it changed mine to. No, I'm just.
You know what? I'm feeling a 5.
Go ahead and take half star off for Bob because he was.
Is there any way we could weight this in Rob's direction for being so quiet this episode?
Oh,
it's going to be 3 3/4 for the ag. Randeezy, why don't you talk about some Rotten Tomatoes?
Randy's Rotten Tomatoes.
I have a roadside stand, everyone. Here it comes.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, folks, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these 3 folks guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is for I Saw the TV Glow on RottenTomatoes.com. And we're going to start, as we always do, with the critics review and then end with the audience score as well. All right, talking about that critical consensus here. There's 134 reviews. I'm going to go down to Caitlin as our esteemed guest to start us off. Out of those 134 reviews, what percentage do you think are positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes?
For critics, I'm going to go 86. I'm going to take The Boys.
The Boys. All right. The kid doesn't always take The Boys. It's a nice thing.
I love that we've popularized The Boys project. We're bringing them back.
One listener at a time.
For a total of 15.
You can't take The Boys this time. What are you feeling for this, Juice?
This is a tough one, because I do think it's going to be divisive, but I do think the critics are definitely going to like it more because of a lot of the craft elements we were talking about, because it looks so beautiful and it's doing nostalgia in a good way. But I don't know. I might go slightly lower, I guess, and say 80.
All right. Bob, where are you at?
I think this is going to be mostly positive when it comes to the critics. I'm going to get nuts. I'm a bit of a Rotten Tomatoes nut. And I'm going to go with an 88. It's a good year.
88. All right. Well, I can tell you guys right out the gate here that there is somebody in this very room that is just 2 percentage points away from the exact correct percentage. That number, that correct percentage is 84%.
Oh,
we're going to take it away.
Shit.
If it was 83, we would have tied.
Damn.
That's how.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Yep.
Would you like a hell yeet, a hell skeet, or something entirely hell related that's different?
I'll go.
Vengeance will be mine.
Damn.
I'll merge them skeet.
Hell,
man, that sounds very Nordic somehow.
The old skeetney, huh? Caitlin, you want the old hell skeetney?
That's a classic, a standard, a fave.
Yeah. There we go. All right. So congrats to our esteemed guest on that. We'll jump over to the audience score and then we'll read some consensuses here. Consensi? I don't know. So the audience score, there's only 50 plus verified ratings, still kind of early in this wide release cycle. So let's go in reverse order. Bob, why don't you tell me what you think the audience is going for with this?
I think it's going to be lower for the audience. This is kind of a weird movie, and I think it's very telling that both times you saw this in the theater, Randy, some motherfucker at the end said, "What?" So I'll take a 55.
55. All right. Juice, you came in the middle this time as well. Why don't you tell me what you're going with?
I could totally see it going that low. I hope it's not, but I could see it. I'm going to try to be a little bit more positive. So I'm going to take the straight chillin' special 69, please.
69 dudes.
Oh, yeah.
69 dudes!
Man, that's a lot of dudes. Caitlin, how many dudes for you?
I'm going to say 60 dudes because my theater as well, when the credits rolled, there was a lot of like, huh? And then there was a lot of like, I don't know. But I also am like, the people that seek this movie out, I feel like are about it. I don't know. I'm going to try 60. We'll see.
60. Okay. Well, the correct answer is only 3 percentage points away from correct. That correct percentage of audience, 66%. Soju's going to haul this one away at the end. Ooh. Congrats to Soju.
Got all them 69 dudes, and that's a hell yeet.
All right. Congrats to you. Let's read some consensus here. Here we go. With a distinctive visual aesthetic that enhances its emotionally resonant narrative, I Saw the TV Glow further establishes writer-director Jane Schoenbrun as a rising talent. I think that's very fair.
Word.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You know what we haven't mentioned is that this title is like a Fall Out Boy song title or what Panic at the Disco title. It's a whole ass sentence.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, it's not like a real one. It's just like in the sense that it's a long ass title sentence.
Well, there's a song. Like there's a song in this movie that has as the chorus. So I don't know which came first. I'm curious to know.
Sure.
But yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so that's it for the critics' consensus. Let's go over and read a couple of negative reviews because I want to be mad today. Here we go. The often mesmerizing visual style reflects the tone while exploring the connection that some have with certain forms of escapism. That said, the story often feels as if it isn't going anywhere and ultimately never clicks. That's fairly vague. That's fine.
Yeah.
I can't be mad at it.
I think that's a pretty fair take. Yeah.
I could
Show me a transphobe. Show me a transphobic one so I can get really mad.
I should have pre-screened so I could find the transphobe. Beep 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 beep. Here we go. But as mood, and it starts with a but, so that's weird. This blurb. But as mood and vibe overtake plot and story, the feeling I Saw the TV Glow evokes is often stiff and expressionless, even as visuals are drenched in intoxicating neon blues and greens.
I fucking hate critics so much. I swear to God. Drenched and shut the fuck up.
Get him.
Shut the fuck up. Say movie good, movie bad, and shut
colors,
the fuck up.
Bitch, shut up.
Needs more Fred Durst.
The colors.
It does need a little bit more Fred.
I'm going to read one more negative. I'm going to read one more, and hopefully we can find somebody that's completely off base. Ticket buyers are either going to feast on the interpretive elements of the picture or politely reject the Helmers' attempt to become the new David Lynch. Well, damn it. That's not nice, but it's not ultimately the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So,
fuck. Too bad, Randy.
Everybody's fair today.
Send me your most egregious transphobic... Don't do that.
Randy needs to be outraged.
I need to be outraged. That's the culture we're in, so I'm going for it.
Look, you know what? Anger is a good
His
motivator.
Identity.
It is. Yep. My identity is Angry Boy. That's with an I. All right.
Edging close to incel there, bud.
You know,
always comes back to the
end. Always comes back.
It does.
All right. Bob, how you feeling about trivia time today?
I found just a little bit, but let's go ahead and get into it.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right there, nerds. So yeah, I previously mentioned Jane Schoenbrun commissioned 16 original songs from some of their favorite bands for this movie's soundtrack, which I'm going to need to listen to that because there's some really good shit on there.
Yeah, there was.
Hopefully it's on Spotify. I haven't checked.
I think it is.
Rad. Nice. Multiple 90s stars are included in this movie. Michael C. Marona and Danny Tamborelli, both from Adventures of Pete and Pete. Fred Durst, of course, we have heavily mentioned. In an interview with Vulture, writer-director Jane Schoenbrun said their inclusions were less about reverence and more about being, quote, haunted by these familiar faces. They reference these faces being ingrained in their subconscious as a child of the 90s, and how they found it interesting to bring these faces back to the screen after so much time. Interesting. Haunted by Fred Durst.
I've heard those words
I often
before.
am.
The Nookie haunts me every day.
You gotta have faith, Randy. You gotta have faith.
Oh boy.
That's George Michael.
No, Limp Bizkit wrote it. George Michael covered it.
God.
The Pink Opaque was originally a placeholder title named after the Cockatoo Twins compilation album, but writer-director Jane Schoenbrun could not come up with a better title for the fictional TV show and decided to keep it. I've not heard that.
I haven't either, but I will say I do not care for that title. It's just sort of like
It's something.
Pink Opaque. It's just like very like staccato for some reason. Pink Opaque.
It's like it evokes like the I don't know, every lesbian bar I've ever been to.
All right.
Somewhere in Seattle, there's a lesbian club called the Pink Opaque. I'm certain.
Hell yeah.
That's funny.
This is the last bit I have here. Just like the rest of the film, the Pink Opaque segments that appear were shot in 35 millimeter, but later transferred to both VHS and Betamax in post-production to create the show's different period-specific degradations.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like that. I really wish we had more of those segments, to be honest. Like, that's probably one of my biggest critiques. Like, I really wanted more.
Well, that's all you get. Suck it up.
I want more.
Suck it up.
There's an article I read this afternoon on Yahoo Lifestyle of all places.
Doubt it.
Titled Jane Schoenbrun explains I saw the TV glow's mind-bending ending and why the key is in the title. And I think there's some like really interesting shit in there. Like they lay it pretty bare, like what they're thinking. Although I will say that it's like still fairly like hard to parse because it's about thinky pain stuff. But there's a couple of paragraphs that I just wanted to read since like the ending was a big topic of conversation. By the end of the movie, Schoenbrun says, after half a lifetime of resistance, when Owen finally sees that glow inside himself, and to do so, he literally has to open himself up and see the heart that's been taken from him, see that it's been replaced by a signal that could be something beautiful, but also carries ambivalent and sinister nature of the emptiness of the glow. The thing that is representing what isn't in there inside him. This is clearly like spoken because it's not parsing correctly, right? This was my attempt to capture the ambivalence and overwhelming joy and possibility, but also that things feel sinister and terrifying about an egg crack. I don't know what egg crack is supposed to mean. The moment when, as a queer or trans person, you understand that you aren't yourself and that you need to become something else to conjure that magic that was maybe there in childhood and maybe is there in these other moments of life. As Schoenbrun discovered, conjuring that magic inside yourself is going to require a lot of fundamentally intense, unpleasant, terrifying, but hopefully also liberatory action that is impossible to do externally through a screen. It can only come from inside oneself. So it was there from the beginning. The film is called I Saw the TV Glow, which is my way of saying I saw the TV glow inside myself, and it took me almost as long as it took Owen to finally see it. And when I wrote this film, I had only just seen it not that long before. So I think that's pretty telling that this is like very personal, like very personal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought that was extremely moving, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks, Randy. Good job.
You got it.
That's all the trivia I got. Let's go ahead and talk about our Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Well, Bob, I did your job, plot synopsis, so I subbed out the Cooter segment to Caitlin over here. So, Caitlin, take it away. Please tell us what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
I'm going to do my best Juice cadence.
Ooh.
Okay. A Cooter is a character type in a straight chill and exclusive. A Cooter has to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are smug arrogance, manipulation, sexual deviance, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, do we have a Cooter?
Whoa, turning me on.
Yes.
That was
Turning
pretty
me
good.
on
Juice.
over here.
Was that? Did you memorize that?
Whoa.
No, I wrote it down because I always forget the 5 points. But every time it comes on, I'm always like, oh, the 5 points. I'm like, doing But
All right.
we all know who the
Perfect.
Cooter is.
Fred Durst.
Well,
Durst.
that's
Well-
always true.
What's
Daddy
the,
Frank.
the guy that was getting a blowjob at the movie theater?
Connor O'Malley?
Yeah.
That's the actor. That's
Wait, what is happening?
There
The
was
guy, the
his
boss
manager
at the,
Oh, I forgot about that scene.
who was
yeah.
antagonizing him for his neurodivergence as well.
Yeah.
That's
I
comedian
forgot about
Connor
that.
O'Malley, who I love, and when I saw him, I shat a brick. It was great.
Damn. Both times.
I know. I'm full of bricks.
Full of shit.
Just full of bricks. Yeah.
I
What
know
were we
that
talking about?
guy.
Yeah, Yeah, he gives a hard time to Owen.
Yeah, he's like,
I
look
know
me in
who
the
that
eye.
is. Oh.
Look me in the eye. And I was
My
like,
But then he also
Bowels.
seems to he at least cares enough about Owen to keep him employed and stuff.
That's what he
keep him
says. He's like,
around.
Dave took me with him, and I was like, okay, first of all, fuck Dave. You don't owe Dave shit.
Yeah,
That
you
guy
don't need
sucks. Yeah.
Anyway,
But he's smug and
undeservedly. We
yeah,
should point out.
a sexual deviant because he's also like, hey, if you want me to tell Jessica, she'll give you a blowjob or whatever he says.
Yeah,
I
man.
assume she worked there as well. That was
Yes,
my okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love his reaction where he's like, what the fuck?
Oh God, I hate it.
So fucking great.
God damn.
Manipulative too, because he's like, yeah, she'll totally blow you guys.
Yeah, it's bullying.
Yeah, he
Bullshit.
sucks.
There's your three right there.
Yeah, I think
And-
Tires.
Look, the looking attire. I think that they all are unfortunately saddled with bad attire. But what can you do?
It was the early 2000s,
And what's the last point? What am we forgetting?
Smug
overall
manipulation.
patheticness?
Well,
Oh yeah,
that's what I was
pathetic.
about to
Yeah.
Patheticness.
I would tack that right on there. He's I don't know if he has any identity issues. He's just doing what he's doing. So for 40 years.
Oh, and
Just
having like a
tutoring it up.
full
Mhm.
crisis asthma attack in the bathroom. He's like, hey, knock, get back to work, Owen. And I was like, yeah, that's pathetic. So
Yeah.
That's 4
Uh,
out of 5.
So he qualifies. A
Yeah.
lot.
Anybody?
Who else we got?
Anybody else? Yeah.
I
Who
mean-
could dethrone him?
I don't think so. Or-
There's
or-
Mr.
or-
Melancholy and Marco Polo.
God, I wish we had more Mr. Melancholy. Who's Marco Polo? I feel like I'm like.
Marco and Polo are the minions.
Oh,
that
the
fucked up
oh
hair
yeah,
and
yeah,
shit,
yeah. Oh,
I did.
man.
Yeah, they're cool.
God, I wish we had more of these little show
Yeah.
segments. They were so cool.
Mm. And then there's, of course, Daddy Fred Durst, who
Fred Durst. We
man.
might have a case for Fred Durst, honestly.
I think we do. There's not much of him, but his presence is felt in a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
He's an
His character
oppressive force.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
so-
scary.
Manipulation.
His silent
The
stare
kid
with
can
the
even
lights.
talk to him,
Yeah.
and he's even like, "Isn't that a show for girls?" So he's definitely, having a manipulative effect on Owen.
And if you take the allegory as pretty, pretty much pure allegory top to bottom, he is actively pulling his son away from what he should be when he watches the final episode for the second time and has that crisis and tries to enter the TV. And he's the one pulling him out and
pulling him
dousing him
out.
in water.
Yeah.
He's desperately trying to keep this kid from engaging with that. So
Yeah.
he is manipulative in that way as well. He's controlling as fuck.
But that's
Sexual
really,
deviance, we don't get a whole lot there, but I will say sexism deviance is he is
Isn't that for
absolutely
girls?
well, it's that, but also the way he treats the way the mom approaches
I
him
know.
is very telling.
The
about
fact
this
that the
movie.
mom is in the back seat and he's driving and the mom is in the back seat with Owen in her lap, I was like, this is weird. And she's like, no, let's not upset your father tonight. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah,
Dad
I
has
think
a
there's
temper.
definitely a lot of hints there, but we don't get enough of them, unfortunately, to give him the points.
Patheticness. I would give him patheticness for my sake. Like from my point of view, like if you see Owen's like progression into the future as being like detached and like all about, even if you see it all about the TV show or whatever, that's what his dad's living. But we don't know what his fucking deal is. He's just taking whatever it is, he's taking it out on his son, and I think that's pretty goddamn pathetic. It's myself, so I would give him that.
Cooter Fred.
Delicious.
Yeah.
So this is a court of law, Randy. We need to bring the evidence here.
Mm-hmm. 2 weeks? That's a first.
Or we could just abuse the system and lock anybody up we want.
Word.
That's what
that's
the real
also
police
fine
do.
with me. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Anybody else?
No, I feel like
those are the likely candidates,
Yeah.
I think.
Cooter Lights, perhaps, but I think we got him. Right on.
All right.
Lock him up. Throw away the key. Right on. Let's continue on here. I think we'll probably have to skip what we've been watching this week, but we do have one voicemail, so let's go ahead and jump into our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got a voicemail from the librarian. Let's go ahead and hear what she has to say.
All right.
Howdy. I just wanted to call in last minute and hopefully make the I Saw the TV Glow episode. Let's see. What did I think about this movie? Well, damn, I cried. I started crying when the sidewalk chalk said, I think there's still time, or you still have time. I don't know, man. Something about this movie and how it portrayed the passage of time and life just passing you by really just hit some emotional chord in me real hard. And I cried, I think, the whole ending from the point of the sidewalk chalk on. I was also really glad that the Alamo I went to had an after show live stream Q&A with the director Jane, because they talked about the queer subtext of the movie and its undertones, and I think that made me cry as well as another queer person. Just a good movie, gorgeous soundtrack. All in all, this was a 5-star movie for me. If you want to write that down, Bob. Also, Phoebe Bridgers' jump scare. Did not know she was going to be in it. I knew her music was going to be in it, but when she was literally on screen, I smacked my friend's arm and I was like, oh! Anyway, also last minute, I just wanted to let y'all know I have read 107 books so far this year. Cue the disbelief and shock. Yeah, I love y'all. Bye!
Fucking literate people.
Damn.
What the hell?
Dude, what is that? 5 books a week so far? Have we even hit 20 weeks yet in the year?
So I can only assume, but by reading over 100 books in a year, you get a best friend who is also a knight who wears armor that you can smack around, because that took me by surprise. I smacked my friend's armor as a librarian.
We have
All right,
21 weeks
Congrats
so
on the
far. And so 5 books a week, right? Am I mathing right?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong crowd.
5 times.
Here we are illiterate and we don't know math. So
5 times
We're
21.
Americans, damn it.
105. Yeah, so 5. Yeah, 5 books a week. Jeez, that's a
Wild.
book every day.
Truly impressive as fuck. And also watching a fuck ton of horror with us. So,
well,
Jesus.
I
Well
read the Twilight book.
I read the New Jersey books on a few labels today.
I read the bullshit second, ancillary books for Twilight. So not to brag.
I did.
Wow.
I didn't read shit.
I don't
Yep.
One of my favorite jokes to make, my favorite bit, is if a friend's like, I was reading this thing and we go, wow, brag.
Whoa.
Interrupt. Okay, brag.
Wow. Fucking hag over there.
Speak English, Doc. We ain't scientists.
Good to hear from you, Librarian. Glad you liked the movie. 5 stars. Got it jotted down in ink. It's in the book.
Hell yeah.
That's rad. Yeah, and congratulations on your reading. That is an insane number. Unbelievable.
That is nuts.
They're cool as hell.
That's wild shit. Yeah, again, if you guys want to call in for next week, hit us up at 904-638-3231. You guys got any prompts you want to throw out for next week?
Oh, boy. I'd love to hear more about this movie. Honestly, whatever people have to say about it, that's great.
We're also covering an unnecessary remake next week. So what is, we've done this several times before. What's a movie you feel like needs a remake that actually should get a remake, that like got a really low budget, but had a really cool concept originally or something, instead of these classics or like amazing films that are just being redone for absolutely no fucking reason other than just money.
It's also not that old.
Sorry.
It's really
not.
No, it's not.
If you put on the original right now, there's nothing about it.
This is like that Cabin Fever remake.
We're talking about The Strangers, by the way. That's what we're talking about.
The Strangers, yes. Chapter 1.
Yeah.
There's a Jonah Ray joke talking about how Spider-Man has had so many iterations in just our generation. And you know the phrasing like, this isn't your grandma's tea party or like whatever. It's like, this isn't your slightly older brother's Spider-Man. This isn't your slightly older cousin's The Strangers. This is this time The Strangers.
Yeah, no kidding.
So dumb.
I have an
when
alternate
did the original Strangers come out?
It was like
2009?
2000, between 2000 and 2010 sometime.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
It was,
maybe 20
on.
years old. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this, like, alternate question. What's the least necessary sequel you have ever seen? What's the sequel that you resent ever having been made on, like, just the deepest grounds possible? Tell me. How many Rob Zombies are we going to get in response? That's my question.
My Lord.
Mary and I did a best and worst remakes episode. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's a...
I've always wanted Pumpkinhead to get a solid remake.
That's a good call, Bob.
I think that'd be a good one.
Jack-O, too.
No, it's already perfect. Nobody should touch Jack-O. It can't be improved upon.
Didn't we cover that?
Yes, we did.
How can you Jack-O without touching?
Bob's such a Jack-O nut.
I'm a bit of a Jack-O nut.
I always say that about Bob.
I got it tattooed on my
It's me, Bob, the Jack-O nut.
The Jack-O.
Yeah, that's
I think I told you
day.
before. Our minor league baseball team is the Flying Squirrels, and our mascot is Nutsy. So we have "Go Nuts" like written all over the city. So.
Nice.
Which is one of my favorite Bob phrases. Go Nuts.
Nice. Yeah, Colin, let us know what needs to be remade or what was the most unnecessary remake or sequel. I think off the top of my dome, I'd have to say the most unnecessary sequel I can think of right now. Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
Jesus
I would
Christ,
say 5, personally. But yeah.
Really all of them, but 2
that movie is
mostly 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good call,
Bob. I'm glad they made that, though, so it kind of undercuts the point.
I am, too. It's so awful, but I kind of love it.
It hurts me.
Did y'all see the Grudge TV series? That one was pretty...
No.
Ooh, no.
I usually, even as like the conversation being like a woman in horror and being a feminist woman in horror about like the use of rape in the narrative of a show or a piece of media, I think there is a nuance to that conversation. When I saw the Grudge TV show, I was like, I'm out. Like there's a scene early on that I was like, nope. And I love like Ju-on. I love The Grudge. And I was like, I'm out for this. So that's going to be my answer.
Nice.
That's a fair answer. Jesus, I didn't know that.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. Call in 904-638-3231. Next week, we are talking about another new release, The Strangers Chapter 1. It is the first part of a trilogy that has already been filmed. I think they're hinting at the second part coming out like this fall, and then the third one sometime next year. So
shame.
They were all directed by Rennie Harlin, I believe, who did Deep Blue Sea. And,
a lot of things.
Yeah, a couple other like
Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, Action Guy.
Yeah.
So, gonna be great.
Check out
Action guys, like, yeah.
Get ready for a bitch fest.
Turns out we fucking love it for some reason.
I
Oh
do.
my god!
Maybe.
In this house, we love The Strangers remake
The first 5-star film, 2020.
of whatever fucking year this is.
Of Jesus Christ, what years?
It's 2019, right?
Might as well be. Caitlin, thank you so much for sitting in with us yet again and just putting up with us. I know it's a lot. It's a lot
please.
to ask.
Oh, please.
Thanks for giving us a little bit of class today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I brought the class. I always do.
I did say a little bit, so I mean, I capped it.
Guys, I did my hanging dong in horror trivia category to an audience of about 120
Nice.
people.
Yes.
It was
Love
a well-attended trivia, and people did pretty well. So
Nice. That's
All
a
right.
shitload
People know
of
their
people.
swingings.
Yeah.
Cool.
it was good. It was a good time, and I wish there was more hanging dong in general, but people
Don't we
crushed
all?
around. Yeah, look.
Word.
Mr.
You tell him, buddy.
minus half star. Man of a code. It's too good. I have to take away half a star.
I specifically I did censor it, but on the one of Kid Cudi and X, I made the little censor super long because that was the commentary on that scene.
Show the meat. Caitlin, do you want to remind everybody one more time where they can find your show at?
Yeah, you can find Plug It Up on pretty much all the podcast platforms, and I'm Plug It Up Pod on Instagram and Twitter, so you can find me there. And Skin of a Killer if you are so inclined.
Right on. Check out Straight Chilling and all the social medias. Straight Chilling Podcast will pop right up. If you want to join our Slack channel, hit us up on one of those social media outlets. I'll send you a link so you can join in on the daily conversations. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
I guess some things are supposed to stay a mystery.